Welcome to the second official episode of New Money Talks, where we talk all things new money. First and foremost, to preface, we apologize for the first episode and our little technical difficulties. We're still trying to figure things out. We're full-time business owners. We're not quite yet full-time podcasters, so we're still figuring out all the technicalities. I think we had some audio issues, but, those should be good now, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully this mic's working, because last time we recorded this a few too many times.
Anyways, this is now our second official episode, so in advance, thank you for watching. Before we even dive into it, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Sure. If we don't have our socials down there now, we will eventually, so make sure you follow those to stay up to date on our most relevant events, content, whatever it might be. So just to preface this episode real quick, we're going to talk about a lot of the shit that most people don't talk about, which is like, I wouldn't say the dark side of business, but the necessary dark sides of business that cause people to succeed. Which is failure, right? And understanding and appreciating that failure is opportunity to, learn things and grow and eventually succeed, right? And you're rarely going to find someone who's successful in any industry, either personally or professionally, that has succeeded without overcoming a lot of shit and a lot of challenges. I know just to get to where we are, which we're not content with where we're at, but we're in a better position than we were a couple of years ago. We've gone through a lot of shit, some more than less, but we'll get into a little bit more with that, but we don't even like to call it failures. We like to call them more like lessons, because you only fail if you give up. We mentioned this in a previous episode, or in our first episode. If you're constantly facing challenges, then you're constantly growing. If you're not facing challenges, then you probably will eventually. And if you get accustomed to just hitting big on everything, then eventually when you do get wrecked and when you do experience a failure, you might not interpret it as a lesson like we have. So anyways, just to dive in, we have right here the definition of failure, because it ties into the definition of success, which, in my opinion is subjective, because I think everyone's picture that they paint in their head of what success is can be interpreted totally different. Some people's is health, some is monetary oriented,
100%, yep.
And things of that nature. But so what the dictionary definition of failure?
Where'd you pull this from? The Webster Dictionary?
Yeah, somewhere like that. Somewhere on Google.
100%. Let's see.
So the definition of failure, it's kind of like I think it's called a circular definition. Is when it's similar to that, but a circular definition is when you use the word to describe a word. So I won't get too political here, but there's people who for example, will ask the question, what is a woman? And a professor will say, oh, well, a woman is someone who identifies as a woman, right? That's an example of a circular.
What is this guy getting into?
That's an example of a circular question.
This is new money talks, not new politics talks. But anyways, keep going.
All right, so definition of success, or definition of failure, rather, is lack of success.
Okay.
So if failure is a lack of success, then, which is a subjective term, then technically, your interpretation, my interpretation of even failure is similar. But without getting too crazy back and forth, again, success is subjective. So like arguably some people would consider it a journey, some people wouldn't. But the moral of this episode here is just talking about embracing failures, acknowledging them as lessons and not as things that are going to be, that are just going to pin you down and hold you down for a long period of time. They're things that are necessary on your growth journey, and we'll share some of ours. But before diving into that, two things we wanted to do. One, we wanted to share some failures and successes of people who you probably know, but maybe you didn't know some of their backstories. Maybe you did, just as an example of some extreme cases of people that have, they had to eat shit to get to where they are. And so not everything is just going to be sunshine and rainbows and this nice upward trajectory. And before we even get into that, I guess we'll talk a bit about super quickly and vaguely what our definition of success is. So what's your definition of success?
Definition of success. It's kind of funny because I think I heard this a few days ago. It was like it was something like this. It was like if something's really, really painful and it's like hurting around, not like physically, maybe even physically, but just like hurting, you're like, damn, I can't get through this. This sucks. It probably means you should be doing that. Like, you should be doing that, because if it hurts and it's hard and it's not easy and not just getting like instant gratification, that means that you're probably going to learn something from that and actually gain something through that. So I think it's going to be an interesting conversation, right? With like failures and success, what it all looks like. Because like in reality, like we've all had failures, like even day to day, right? Like there's stuff that you probably shouldn't have done, that you could have done differently, could have done better, etc. And like I think it's hard personally for me to like pinpoint, oh, this was just like point blank failure. Because like kind of the way I roll, and like kind of the way Kyle rolls like this too sometimes, it's like you might have not failed on it, it might not went the way you wanted it to go in a sense. Like from your first e-commerce store, right? We go back to e-commerce, right? Your first e-commerce store, boom, you think you're gonna hit do like $1 million a day or something, right? It's not gonna happen. Maybe you have a product that just doesn't work, right? Maybe maybe you go into Facebook, you go to launch in the ad, you wake up the next morning and you're banned, right? Like your ad account got banned. I don't know, like the credit card you put on file is like a banned credit card. Processor hold.
Goes on and on.
So it's like all these things are just like pains that are just like part of business, part of just making money, especially making money like in this new world, right? Where like a lot of what we do is based off of like we use different platforms all the time, right? Whether they're using like bank platforms, like e-commerce platforms, ad platforms, etc. Like you're relying on all these other platforms, right? So because you're relying on all these things, all these little things just pop up and can be considered failures, right? Now, in the bigger picture, right? Like what kind of failures have I dealt with, right? I don't know. Like my first company that I started, I wouldn't call it a failure per se. We learned a lot. It didn't kind of go where we wanted to go.
It's kind of like it was like a stepping stone.
It was actually that's a good way to put it, a stepping stone, right? Like look at your failure like a stepping stone, right? Like, hey, so what did you actually accomplish in that like year and a half, 2 years where you were working on this project? Well, you learn how to build a website, you learn how to talk to customers, you learn how to like invoice, how to bill,
a lot of basic shit.
All of the basic stuff, how to open up a bank account, how to make an LLC, how to make a corporation, like talk to an accountant, talk to lawyers, right? At the end of the day, we didn't make millions of dollars off of it, right? Probably made, I don't know, tens of thousands of dollars at that point, which is great, right? We were young. That was a positive at that point. And obviously, it helped us grow into other things. Would you call that a failure? Maybe. It doesn't really exist anymore. But at the same time, all the lessons were a stepping stone to the next thing, right? And then the next thing is like start a tech company, right? Like, I don't know, it was like 4 or 5 years ago I started a tech company. Similar thing, right? Like we raised some money for it, built out a product, got a few customers early on, and that failed too. Why did that fail? That failed because like we blew up in the media too quickly, and it just backlash on us. But that's a huge lesson, right? Maybe next time, PR isn't a good move.
I forget about that shit right? Sometimes.
Yeah. Like I was on the front page of the Washington Post, like printed Washington Post weekend. There was a whole thing like
that could have been a huge fucking company.
Trending on the Apple News app, you know, like crazy stuff. And I went from like 100 to 0 really quick. Was that a failure? Maybe, maybe not. Because, like, think about it. I could talk about that story over and over and over again, and it just adds credibility to who I am, right? If I hop on a sales call right now, and they're like, oh, tell me about yourself. I share the story. People really don't consider it a failure. They're like, hey, look, like, you tried something. You took a risk. You, like, made a leap. You actually accomplished a few things. Like, there's actually, like, credible sources that say, hey, you actually built something. Yeah. Is that a failure? In, like, a broad definition, maybe it is. Personally, I don't really think it was, right? I learned a whole lot through that.
See, that's the thing, though. Like, some people would look at that as a failure, but just the way that we look at it and interpret it, it's like...
Exactly.
It's also the way that you look at things. So, like, through that, you'll probably be able to... The next time you want to exit a company, let's say you exit this for $30-40 million in 2-3 years. The person who's coming to you is going to say, all right, well, what's your track record? And you can honorably say, like, listen, I was a part of this absolutely massive company that was getting ready for an exit, or I was involved in these other companies that were also either preparing for exit or they actually did get acquired. You know, and just going through that process. I was actually talking to my dad the other day about this because we have a friend that exited for like, just his shares of the company was like $2-3 million or something, maybe 2 years ago. And I was telling him in a car ride that we had about his valuation. So this kid's valuation of his new company and his goals on exiting it were probably north of $40-50 million is what he's kind of shooting for in the next maybe 2-3 years. And we're talking about multiples, and my dad he ran a company that had a very large multiple in like a software kind of sustainability consulting space, whole 9 yards. He has been in business, and so he was like, listen, back when we were doing all this, like, here's what the multiples were, and now they're like egregiously inflated. But I told him that he's going to be able to sell that for a larger multiple than most other people because he went through the experience of another company. Exactly. Whether he sold it for less or whether he like had a giant part in it or a small part in it, like, he's going to be taken so much more seriously, and he might get $20-30-40 million more, because these aggregators, what they want when they buy companies is they want to steal, they want to deal, because they want to pile them in with other businesses and then sell all of them for like this insane premium to another company. And so if he didn't have that experience, if you didn't have that experience, people are going to be coming to you and saying, lowballing you, trying to get a
Definitely.
70-80% discount.
And then honestly, if you don't have that experience of like a failure, like he did have that one exit, but I know even before that, and also at the same time as that, he's had many failures. Like he's tried stores before, it didn't work. He tried different side businesses, it didn't work. And if you don't have those failures, when you do go to make the exit, you might like leave so much money on the table at that point, right? Because like those experiences of failing in a sense have like programmed his brain to like catch things, right? Like you just by taking the leap and getting into business, just doing that in itself is a success, right? Like it sounds cliche and everything. Yeah, it sucks when like something doesn't work out the way you want it to work out.
Yeah.
Like that's how life is. Like most of life is like that. And like there's people outside of just us, like who don't even run businesses, who like have much harder lives than all of us, right? Even watching this, like if you're watching this, probably your life is probably pretty decent in a sense. Like if you have a computer and Wi-Fi,
if you can watch this,
yeah, if you can watch this, right? Like it's probably like there's probably just think about it, there's always people that are having it worse than you in a sense. So those failures that like you think are really failures are probably just flip them and look at them. Like it's just kind of funny. People look at like the glass half full, half empty, right? Like half full of water, half empty of water. The way I look at it is if you give me an empty cup of water, it's full of air. So I have a full cup of air at that point, right? Like always look at the positive, because like there's really no reason to like to hold on the negative. Like what are you going to gain from that? The only thing you can gain is the experience from that, and just kind of use it as a stepping stone. Like you failed once, okay, I learned this, now I have a base. Like that's your bottom base now, right? If you fail there, like you can't really go past that. Now accomplish something higher. If you fail again, well, you just moved up a step. Fail again, stepping stones. Yeah, like literally to get to the top of like a staircase, you got to start at the bottom step, right? You can't just like, there's some guys who get lucky and they can just like parachute to the top. It happens, like definitely happens. In our case, we have it.
Majority of them are going to trip and fall down, and they got to get back up.
And like think about it, some of these guys might like exit for like $100 million. The next thing you know, you see them in like a few years and like, where'd the money go? I don't know. A lot of stories like that, like you see with athletes and stuff like
especially
that.
Athletes.
Yeah, athletes have it huge where they're making, I don't know, 10, 15, 20, $30 million a year for like 10 years. They rack up like a $250 million, and then you see them in the news and like they're like homeless, or like they have like a real job, right? So
didn't pay taxes, whatever.
Yeah, didn't pay taxes, like blew money in like a club, like bought cars, too many houses, etc.
Lose 10 mil.
And like all in a sense, we'd see that as successful, but on the flip side, you see that as a failure too, right?
Yeah.
And like, it's kind of funny because like, what do you actually learn more from, the failure or the success? Every time you learn more from the failure.
Yeah,
like,
it's,
you know what I mean?
It's crazy because like I think everyone's trying to figure out that secret, like the number one formula to get to success, and like it's probably failure.
It definitely is failure, like, man. It definitely
the secret to success is probably the open-mindedness and the resilience of being able to accept and to deal with failures, or to take those and turn them into lessons to where you can apply them to the next thing that you're going to do, right? It's either I do this and I'm going to, and it succeeds and it puts me, one step forward and towards my goal, or I'm learning something and now I know what not to do, which is also putting me one more step towards my goal.
Like I'll even push it back to e-com, because I know that the early audience is going to be a lot of e-com guys, so whatever. Like a big thing that happens when you start your first store, like you lose your Shopify payments account, right? Yeah. So somebody who's never failed before in like business would be like, oh man, it's done. Like I have to make a new store. Yeah. Well, if you actually chatted with somebody who had that experience of failing, okay, I can go to Stripe and open up another payment processor account, or I can go to Authorize.net, open another payment processor account. I can go to Braintree, open up another payment processor account. You know what I mean? Like just like a little thing like that. Same with the Facebook, right? It's like, oh, I lost my Facebook account. Okay, there's ways you can like overcome that. You know what I mean? And that only comes through failing. Like we would not know these things if it didn't happen to us, right? Like I've woken up in the morning spending $5K a day on Facebook, ripping on Facebook like 3-4x ROAS, something like that. Wake up in the morning and the ads are off, and I'm like, why do I only have 5 orders? And I did 300 yesterday. You have to deal with it. It's part of it.
Yeah, and I think part of that also is like learning from, getting the opportunity to learn from other people's failures as well.
100%. Yeah.
Because like if you're gonna wake up and like everyone's gonna experience that out account ban or that payment processor hold or let's go broader and not just talk e-commerce. Let's talk like in business in general. You're either going to be selling
losing customers.
Like, you're going to be selling a product or a service, and always you're going to be having to deal with some form of customers.
Exactly.
So like customer maintenance, customer acquisition, like
all these losing employees.
Yeah, exactly. So when you hear stories about maybe what we've done or what other people have done, you sometimes you don't take them with a grain of salt as much as you should relative to if you were to experience that problem yourself, right? There's going to be no better teacher than when you experience that 6-figure payment processor hold and you have to go ask neighbors for a $5,000, $10,000 loan to make ends meet. Like, we'll get into that maybe a little bit later, but there's like when you actually experience that yourself, no matter how many times someone else told you, oh, don't do this, or oh, prepare yourself for this, it's not going to hit you until you actually experience it. Yeah, definitely.
It's funny because, like, one of my professors at school, I remember I took, like, an entrepreneurship class in school. Like, I guess school, you can't learn that much entrepreneurship, but I gained some. I'm actually good friends with the professor now. And, like, I remember the first class he ever taught, he said his definition of entrepreneurship is, like, nonstop, continuous punches to the gut. Just, like, nonstop. Like, because, like, and honestly, metaphorically or not, like, you feel that, right? When all these bad things happen, employees leave, like, you get in a fight with your partner, you lose a customer, you feel it in your stomach. You know what I mean? Like, no matter what, like, it physically hurts in your stomach, and, like, that's that just continuous punch. But the guys who are on top are the ones that just take that punch. They know, like, honestly, at this point in our lives, like, I wake up in the morning knowing my stomach's going to hurt.
Yeah.
Like, I literally just wake up and I'm like, all right, like, I know it's going to hurt. Like, I know, like, I'm going to have a problem today. It just is what it is. You know what I mean?
Used to it.
You just get used to it. It's part of the routine. Like, you wake up, you look at your phone, you're like, okay, I knew this was going to happen. I know this exact problem was going to happen, but I knew something was going to come up. And you just got to you have to react to it, have the system in place, have employees. Take it easy, take a deep breath, stuff like that.
It's a combination of, like, proactiveness and reactiveness. So, like, obviously, if you can put as many measures in place to prevent problems from happening, Definitely. That's great. Like, if you have a client-facing and servicing business, if you can hire a client success manager to maybe take a big part of that load off your shoulders, so that when problems do happen, by the time you look at it, those problems have already been solved, ameliorated, or at least addressed. Like, little things like that once you experience that, you'll actually know how to put preventative solutions in place. And then when you do have those preventative solutions, even if something does slip through the cracks, like, you'll know how to react to it, and you'll know how to actually address the situation at hand. Right?
100%. I think we're talking about, like, really successful people today.
Yeah. So I think that's a good idea. Yeah. So I mean, there's so many people. Obviously, we're gonna cover maybe 8 or 9 people super quickly that you'll definitely know, and just so that it hits home.
And if you don't look them up,
exactly.
They're pretty big people.
You'll understand how important it is to acknowledge how necessary failure is in terms of a milestone and a stepping stone to get to a point of success. And so we'll start off with
Who's the first one on the list?
We'll start off with the man himself, Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan. Okay, so, everyone knows who that is. I hope so.
So Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team, which was essentially, as you can imagine, from a professional athlete someone aspiring to be a professional athlete, was a heartbreaking experience for any teenager. And then he became one of the greatest basketball players in the history of the game, right? So
the second best after LeBron James, but yeah.
Yeah, sure, whatever. We won't get too political, but but anyways, again, you look at someone like Michael Jordan, one of the, if not the greatest NBA player of all time, and even he was, I don't know for a fact, but I think it was up until, like, his senior year that he didn't even get, like, a starting minute on the high school team.
I heard the same thing. Like, he didn't make varsity early on. Like, yeah, he wasn't a big time player out of high school.
Like, I made varsity my sophomore year, and if college Michael Jordan and college athlete Kyle Russell went up 1-on-1 in basketball, he would absolutely shit on me.
100%.
But so it's all, it's relative in terms of your failures, because who knows, like, his high school team was a million times better than my high school team, so it's also relative to what circumstances and what environment you actually experience that failure. Because to us, we might be spending $10,000 a day and we might get an out of account ban, and some other guy is spending $100 or $200 a day and he's not getting an out of account ban, and he would love to be in the situation that we are at, experiencing these problems at higher levels, because in order to get there, we've obviously been able to spend tens of thousands of dollars a day to a certain extent for a prolonged period of time. And then when we do figure out what the problem is, we can solve it, and now we're still going to be spending that, if not more, if not a little bit less. Whereas the guy who's like happy in his little bubble, only spending $100, $200 a day playing it safe, like he wishes he's in that position, but he doesn't realize it because he's not willing to, experience some of those failures, right?
Definitely.
So that's our good friend Michael Jordan.
Who we have next? We have
Jack Ma.
Jack Ma.
Do you actually know about Jack Ma's I know, past story?
I don't know his past story. I know who he is. For all you dropshippers out there who are on AliExpress, this is the reason why you have AliExpress. By the way,
he's the Chinese Jeff Bezos.
Exactly Alibaba, AliExpress. It's all this guy. I don't know what his what his story is though.
So he wanted to go to college, but he had trouble passing entrance exams. So on his first attempt, he scored a 1 out of 120 possible points on the math portion of the exam.
Okay.
On his second try, he failed again. Barely passed on his third attempt, and it finally allowed him to enroll in a less than prestigious teacher's institute because he wanted to be a teacher, right? Then when he graduated, we're thinking, he's going.
Bro, he got a job at KFC.
This was after applying to 24 different occupations. He finally got a job at KFC. He is now the founder, owner, unless he exited part of it, or he doesn't. He probably doesn't have majority.
It's a public company, but
regardless,
billions and billions of dollars.
Built up Alibaba from scratch. I think he was talking to a friend, and this was when the internet was being created, and he was like, I want to bring the internet, like the mainstream internet that's becoming that's rapidly advancing in the United States. He's like, I wanted to bring that to China, and I wanted to do that through commerce, right? And that's what he did, and it's crazy. Like you would never have expected him to have scored a 1 out of 120 in a math test.
And the thing about the guy who started Alibaba, honestly, I guess it's probably smaller than Amazon. Amazon's Amazon.
I mean, I don't know. It depends because when you look at Amazon, not a lot of people do bulk orders. When you look at Alibaba, there's and when you also look at the Chinese marketplace versus is there an Amazon in China? I don't even think so.
I don't know. We have to look up the market cap, stuff like that. But regardless, it's a massive company, and the guy worked at KFC. That to me,
that's nuts.
And I honestly full kudos to that to him because think about it. He went from nothing, getting punched in the gut, failing, not getting accepted at any college, having to work minimum wage jobs to look where he is now. All attest to just failing and just getting back up and kind of making it happen. So that was a good one.
Yeah,
sure.
The other one, not these two are we'll breeze through them quick because they're not as relevant to I guess people that we aspire and look up to as much, but they're both noticeable. They're notable in their own way.
Definitely.
So one of them is J.K. Rowling.
Okay.
So Rowling, for those of you that don't know, founder of the Harry Potter series, books, equity in the movies, everything, the whole shebang. So the actual novel when she first wrote it was rejected 12 times, and she was told not to quit her day job, quote unquote. And let's see, her latest novels continue to get rejection letters. That's crazy. So Rowling is in great company. Many successful writers rightfully consider their early rejections to be badges of honors, right? Same thing with Stephen King, Jack London. I don't know who that is, but definitely Stephen King is huge.
He's huge, big author.
Huge, and so same thing, right? Anyone who wanted to be probably a famous journalist, book writer, author, whatever. Even Alex Ramosi, who we know is his little $100 million.
You'll see this one day, Alex. You will see this one day. You'll see us up there.
So his $100 million offer is this. He's not an author, right? He just experienced these. Pumping. He experienced these trials and tribulations of business. He's probably done a lot of copywriting. Probably wrote a ton, and probably had a lot of shit that failed until ultimately he crafted this thing that was great, right? Whether he wrote 100% of it or whether someone helped pitch in and ghostwrite or helped proofread whatever was going on within it to make sure it was in its best version. That thing I think is still number one in business books, top bestsellers, things like that. So any author, any athlete, any entrepreneur, it's very rare you're gonna find one person who's at the top or who is even on the path to success that hasn't just eaten a lot of shit along the way and have embraced it and have learned from it and used it as stepping stones, right? Then number 4 we got Oprah Winfrey. So
everyone knows who Oprah is. Come on.
She's the one who says, you get a car, you get $10 grand, you get. So anyway, she was hired as co-anchor of evening news at Baltimore ABC affiliate, an inviable job for a young journalist, but was dropped after a few months. So she had an opportunity to kind of prove her skill sets. She ended up getting dropped, getting fired, whatever. Most people especially you maybe at the end of this, screen, you're probably thinking, if that happened to me, if I had my dream job, whatever it might have been, if that got ripped out from under me, I would see that as it just, again, stake in the heart, career ruining, however you interpret that. She was probably like, oh shit, now I have the opportunity to write maybe my own thing, to do my own stuff where I get to do it at my own pace. And that's exactly what she did. So again, many people in her shoes would have, changed into sandals, pursued a different career, quit, given up, something of that kind of nature. But yeah, the lessons that she learned from that are probably what allowed her to get, the on-camera experience, and that fueled what is now one of the probably largest, what would you even consider that?
Talk shows?
Talk shows.
I guess talk show, yeah. She's big.
And every soccer mom watches.
Every soccer mom, yeah. Yeah, when you're working during the day, Oprah's just getting views all day.
Oh, yeah.
Who's next? We have
we have Walt Disney. We'll skip over Walt Disney. I think a lot of you guys know, obviously all of the Disney series, movies, the Disney amusement parks, all those things. It actually started from when he pitched all those things and ended up getting rejected by a bunch of different people, pitched all these different ideas.
It says he went bankrupt in 1921 and started eating dog food to survive.
That's crazy.
When you lose your payment processor, Walt Disney ate dog food, so you'll be okay.
If you were subsisting on dog food because of the failure of your first animation company, would you start another animation company? That's a great question. So if you got kicked in the ass, like your first e-commerce brand, if you got kicked in the ass, would you, bad, right? Where, in my case, I had a $120,000 hold. I had maybe 40, 50K in the bank, and I put most of that towards paying for the orders that needed to be paid off, things of this nature. And keep in mind, we still had we had that hold, and then we still had then a reserve after that, with a new processor we swapped in. It was a shit show, and this was on one of our most successful stores. So from the outside looking in, everyone's like, "Oh my God, you're making all this money!" But on the behind the scenes, this was actually a month before the largest month. So this was when we did I want to say we did 200K for the first 3 weeks of the month, and the 2 weeks of that 200K we processed about 150,000, and of that we had about $120,000 hold, and that happened because. And it's crazy because you never see it coming until it happens. On a Tuesday, we got a notice that said, "Oh, there's going to be we're just reviewing the funds. It's going to maybe be 1 or 2 days late." Friday rolls around, we haven't got anything yet. So now we're fucked because it rolls into Monday, and now Monday, that's when the big payouts hit. So we had 60K we were expecting to come in from a couple of 10, 15K days, and it didn't hit. So we called them, boom, hold. Who was this? This was a Bank of America merchant processor. Never used Bank of America merchant processing again. I've used Chase, authorized that at Merchant Processing Pros. Never used them again.
Shout out to Payment Processor Pros, Dalen, you're a homie.
And it gives you kind of some perspective on maybe I shouldn't use bank merchant processing, or I shouldn't process with banks, blah blah blah, XYZ, whatever might have happened. But I ended up having to basically liquidate all of my assets, which weren't much at the time. As I mentioned in my last episode, I was helping chip in for family expenses, so it's not like I can go to my mom or dad and say, "Hey, can I borrow 50 grand? Can I get anything?" Yeah. It's I don't think at the time I was probably financing my car, so I didn't have the opportunity to sell that or anything. Not that I would have wanted to, but it was cool because that taught me that no matter what problem that you're facing, there's always a solution if you get scrappy enough, if you really want it badly enough, because I was able to go out and, maybe ask, and I fucking hated asking anyone for money. To this day, I never want to ask anyone for anything. If I'm at the airport, I'd rather Uber home than ask someone, "Hey, can you come pick me up?" Because it's going to be an inconvenience to them, and I just want to, that's not who I am. I don't want to ask for shit. I don't want to ask, especially money in business, because then especially if you have ego, right? If you have to go and ask for money, then they're like, "Oh shit, are you not doing that well? Are you not doing good? Are you going bankrupt? What's going on?" Especially when you have to tell your parents that you have to go ask people. The people who supported you through dropping out of college and doing all this and that, and you're actually on paper you're doing well, but behind the scenes there's all these problems that add up, right? And there's a lot of things that people don't talk about. This was one of them that I experienced. That was it sucked, and I could have either been "Oh shit, we have to refund all these orders. I'm gonna lose everything in my bank account and go bankrupt, whatever." I was only 19, 20, so I had plenty of room to kind of make it up.
Figure it out, yeah.
But some people would look at that and be like, "Shit, throw in the towel." I was like, nope. I had to get resourceful. I had to get scrappy. And I do have like friends and I do have family that are well off enough to where I could have asked them. And I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. I had to ask one person. My partner and I pretty much had to put everything that we had into the company. We had to use credit cards, like that Alex Hormozy story where I won't talk too much and fanboy about him too much, but it's a little side note. One of the most successful company that he ran, at least initially, I think he had 90 days to make it work. He had $100,000 on a credit card that didn't close out, and his expenses were $3,000 a day. So he could have said, "Oh, this is a really stupid idea. Let me not do this, or let me take this $100,000 and let me spend this $3,000 a day for the next 30 days and see how I can make it work." Right? Yeah, $3,000 a day for 30 days. Yeah, like about 100,000, right? So, and ultimately he made it work. So that's pretty much what we did, right? We took like a very, very small loan. It was maybe like $7,000. And I hated to even ask for that. And the guy who I was asking, our family friend, that was like 0.0001%. It was
nothing to
right?
him. Like, no, I feel you.
And anyways, we got that, ended up fixing these problems. And then literally like a week after we fixed it and we were able to get funds for like new cash flow, for new profit to come in, we scaled up to like 30K a day in like a week. And now most people that you hear of now that scale to 10K a day, 20K, 30K a day, all these drop shippers, they do it for a week and then nothing happens after that because they get a hold, they get Facebook ban, nowadays they get a TikTok ban. This was back before TikTok was even a thing. But they'll have all these problems, and usually you can't sustain that, right? It's not impressive to get to 30K a day. It's impressive to get to 300K a month for 12 months straight, or for 18 months straight, and to exit for 5 million. That's impressive. But getting to 30K a day in a week, okay, that's nothing. But then the next month, because we solved those problems, we went from 30K a day to 120K a day in the following 2-3 weeks, and we were able to sustain that for, we were able to sustain 100K days for multiple weeks. We were able to sustain multi 5-figure days for over like 2 months straight. And that was crazy. And that was all because I solved that problem that, looking back at, I'm like, it really wasn't that big of a deal. I could have probably gone to a bank, even as young as I was, and gotten a $10,000 loan. And that could have helped between my money, between my partner's money, and that could have solved it. But looking back, now I know you don't spend money that you... Now, one of my rules of thumb, whether it's to people that I've like helped, whether I've coached them, whether they just ask for help through social media, whatever it is, I always say try to hold on to at least like 6-7 days worth of revenue in the bank, right? Why? Because if you're doing 10K a day, and you're gonna realize and you're gonna figure out, if you're monitoring your processing, whether you're getting a hold or there's problems, you're gonna probably figure it out in like 3-4 days, right? So let's say Tuesday the problem starts and you don't catch it until like Thursday, right? Then what's going to happen is on Friday you're going to look into it, and then you're going to, maybe you don't figure it out until like Saturday. And so again, things with the weekend, everything adds up. All of a sudden Monday comes around, you just lost 7 days worth of revenue. If you don't have probably at least 60% of that to cover cost of goods, all these things to put out some fires, then like you're screwed, right? You might be out 70 grand, if not more, depending on how hard you're scaling, right? So keep a reserve. Make sure that you have backup merchant processors. That was another big thing. And in almost any business that you're running, whether you're running an agency, whether you're running a 3PL, whether you're running an e-commerce business, whatever it is, merchant processing is an important thing, right? Maybe not, it doesn't matter as much in services space.
Honestly, even for services, it matters, because like 2.9% in like 30 cents or something like that. It's like
on hundreds of thousands a month. Like,
if you break that down to 2.4% and like 20 cents on hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, you can save yourself like $5,000 to $10,000 a month. So it does matter. Like, payment processing is huge, and any business that has like a tech part to it, where like you're charging ACH or credit cards, it's very important, honestly.
Yeah, and everyone can equally get fucked, right? Even in the servicing space, like if you open up a new service and you're charging $5,000 a month, you're charging $5K one-time payments, and you collect 3 or 4 of them. This might be a great idea that you had a great business, but because you're like a startup and you don't have a lot of history, if you get 3 Stripe payments of $5K, and now all of a sudden you get that on hold, right? So you're actually lucky in the servicing space, because you could probably say, oh, hey, can I send this back? Can you process the payment through like another method or something? But in an e-commerce business and many other businesses, or even in that case, you might get the funds frozen and you actually can't refund them in certain circumstances, right? So, but in a lot of businesses, you don't have the luxury of being able to do that. And if you experience it, you have to make sure that you have backup payment processors, other methods in which you can get paid. and try not to be dependent on one payment processing platform. Like in e-commerce, PayPal sucks.
PayPal sucks. Man, don't touch that.
If you get banned on PayPal and that's where like a majority of your orders have been coming in, then like you can be completely screwed if you don't have a good customer experience. All these fun things, but again, that was just like one thing, one problem that I was able to solve that kind of spiraled into knowing and being super confident that I can continue to solve these problems as they come my way.
I'm going to reiterate, PayPal sucks. Not even for e-commerce, literally just sending somebody, if you make a new PayPal account and you go to send somebody like $200, the person who receives that is not going to get that money for like 6 months. Like, I honestly, I hate PayPal.
They suck. And in the e-commerce space,
it's like a whole different ballgame.
It sucks even worse because like
touch that.
It's tough because it's like you need them in some circumstances when you're selling low quality products.
Also international, I guess you need it too. But like honestly, if you could find any other way, like go use Klarna or something like that.
If you're watching this, a great business idea, compete with PayPal. No one has the balls to do it right now, but it's like how difficult can it be to create a payment platform where you can just put in your email instead of putting in your credit card number? Because that's all that PayPal really is. And so it's just the fact that they've been around for a while and people trust them and this and that. But at the end of the day, like, how difficult would it be for one of you watching this to go out and get some investors, raise $1 million, and then create a PayPal and try to compete with them, right? Like, I'd be actually pretty curious after this episode to look up if there are any PayPal competitors, because I'd use them, I'd back them in a heartbeat. It's just that other people have to hop on that, you know?
Yeah, PayPal's a mess.
They suck.
I'm sure a lot of you guys who listen to this have dealt with it, and if you haven't, it is, and like I said, not even e-commerce, just like you know how easy Venmo is?
Yeah.
Like, I love Venmo. Venmo is so easy.
Zelle.
I don't do Cash App. Like, people who do, like, Cash App's easy too. But, like, PayPal, for some reason, this app, like, across the board is just a mess. Just stay away. Anything you can do, stay away.
Yeah.
Please.
I want to.
I saw one of those I want to do too.
Yeah, go for it.
I saw one that was towards the bottom. It was Babe Ruth.
Oh yeah.
Babe Ruth. I'm curious what his thing is. Only reason I brought that up because Aaron Judge is just killing it this year.
Oh yeah, he's crushing it.
I think he broke his like home run record, Babe Ruth's home run record, and like he's just going for big stuff. So
let's see. Ruth is considered one of the greatest baseball players of all time, an accolade that is well deserved given his home run records, which was just broken. Yeah. So what most people don't know is that when he retired in 1935, he also held the record for the most strikeouts in all of Major League Baseball. Damn. He trudged back to the dugout twice as often as he actually ran the bases.
Damn.
His explanation, I just go up there and I swing.
Bro, he was eating too many hot dogs. That's the problem. He's a big guy. That's crazy.
You know what he said? This is a fucking amazing quote. He said, the first half, questionable. I just go up there and I swing. I just keep on swinging and I keep on swinging. This part, though, every strike brings me closer to my next home run.
There you go.
Like, every air ball brings me closer to my next made three-point shot, my next buzzer beater, every fucking painter
That's actually, honestly, good thing we found this.
That's a great quote.
Literally, every failure you have, it just brings you closer to your next home run.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
We basically said that earlier.
We did. That's kind of funny. We didn't even read this.
It's crazy.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's
yeah, so I guess just to pivot.
Where are we going with this?
I wanted to talk a little bit more about, I'll talk a little bit more about some of my failures, or rather lessons, because I think it goes outside of business. One thing that I'll talk about, I won't name drop or anything, but I'm going to talk about, I guess, choosing your business partners, choosing your friends, choosing your roommates. Wink, wink. But
roommates.
So I'll take it back to when I got my first apartment. Right before I dropped out of school, I met up with a bunch of guys in Florida, right? Like that's kind of the place to be for entrepreneurs, especially as of recently. Everyone just kind of seems to aggregate to Florida, to Miami, Fort Lauderdale, all these, Boca Raton, all these different places.
Boca.
And it's definitely a funny place. But when I went, I visited some friends, and then I met people that I've never met before, right? So these are friends that I've had since birth that I met up with, and then through that, I went on some side quests while I was there. I met some interesting people that
Side note, Kyle loves, we go on vacations together, Kyle loves these like side quests.
I love the side
quests.
Hey,
I met this guy on Instagram, like I'm gonna go have dinner with him. Like, who is he? Like, oh, I've known him for like a year. It's like, all right, Kyle.
Never met him before, but now I finally have the opportunity to. But anyways, like I love I love networking. I love meeting new people. I love getting different perspectives, especially for people that are in industries that I'm in and that I can learn from, right? So this kid was, he had some e-commerce stores, did well. He was, at the time he was doing fulfillment. And what's really interesting is that there's another guy from this, I won't talk about too much, but there's a guy that we both got screwed over by the same kid. One of the guys he screwed over, and I'd say we both learned from it, and we both have made a shit ton of money actually because of it. So in part we have a little bit to thank him. But he was basically
who's the other guy? I don't know if that name, but who is it? Describe him.
He runs a 3PL. He runs multiple e-commerce brands, and he's young. He's like 21. He might be turning 22. And essentially he got screwed over by him because he was like a fulfilling agent, right? So he was the middleman who was helping arrange like getting better deals, getting good custom packaging, all these things. And so I'll talk about me in a second, but he screwed over this other kid who was reaching out to me because this is a long story. Because I was living with this kid at the time, or after I had met him. We fast forward a couple of months.
You brought this guy back to New Jersey.
We ended up moving in with each other because initially we just kind of hit it off. We were vibing and we were kind of on like the same frequency and wavelength. And it turns out while he was living with me, he was essentially stealing from me in a sense because I was sending him money to send to a supplier that he was going to broker this deal with to get cheaper cost of goods. And I was working on this with a partner too. So both a partner and mine ended up losing like probably 35 grand that we had to put towards orders that a second time because they didn't get fulfilled the first time. Because this kid kept on saying, the tracking numbers are coming, this, that, XYZ, for like a month straight, a month and a half. And this kid's living with me, so I didn't think he would be that much of a shitbag to be able to like see me face to face every day and say, oh yeah, they're coming, right? It's coming in a couple of days. There was a little bit of a delay here, XYZ, whatever, right? He ends up moving out like a month or two after I get my first apartment. I think it was his first apartment too. So I was stuck at 19 years old, just turned 20 with a $3,600 a month lease, $200 a month in utilities, $500 car payment, all this and that, right? So like, 2-bedroom, one of them that I didn't even use. Anyways, in hindsight, number one, a lot of things I learned from that. But anyways, there was a kid that he screwed over. He reached out to me and said, hey, you're living with this guy.
Did you start with a G?
Yes.
Oh, I know.
He said, you're living with this guy. He's like, you tell me the scoop of what's going on because I can't get through to this kid. Like, he's doing something shady, and I'm selling like multi 6 figures a month worth of product. So I'm sending him multi 6 figures a month worth of wires and payments that are not being reciprocated or that I'm not getting tracking numbers on, all this stuff.
So he was sourcing stuff from China for you.
Yeah.
And he wasn't fulfilling in China.
Correct.
Damn.
And it's crazy. He was faking conversations with agents and with suppliers and like pretending that these were going out and then putting in fake tracking numbers. All the tracking numbers finally came. They're fake. We have PayPal holds. We put them in a PayPal. They laugh at us. Then we call them up. They're like, what is this? Like this is
That's
obviously
nuts.
fake. And we don't know better. Like this was like my maybe third or fourth business that I was operating, and so I was used to doing Oberlo and fulfilling AliExpress. I had a couple of like sourcing agents. Anyways, fast forward, the kid that he screwed over opens his own 3PL, opens his own sourcing agency, and he's got to be making probably at least 100, 200K net a month on sourcing, fulfillment, all these different things. I don't know that for a fact. But with a high level of confidence, the kid's doing very, very well. I'd love to get him on.
Yeah.
I won't say what state he lives in, but he'd have to fly on to get here. But very, very good friend. He's done a lot of great things. But I think him looking back on that, he'd be able to say, damn, if that didn't happen to me, if I didn't lose probably tens of thousands, if not 100 grand in that time period, and he's probably 18 at the time, then he wouldn't have built this massive fulfillment 3PL sourcing agency like empire, right? Nor had better businesses where he had solidified logistics, where he had great customer experience, all this stuff, right? Anyways, let's rewind and let's talk about, I guess, the choosing your business partners, choosing your friends, all these things wisely, because that's more the personal side of things, right?
That's important stuff.
Yeah, I guess I had the luxury of growing up around some really, really great dudes. This guy being one of them, and even all the way through getting to college, I never had issues with like roommates, like suite mates, like teammates. I got along with like everyone, and I'm someone that like if you do me wrong, it's like all right, I'll just brush off my shoulders. I don't care. Like I'll take shots all day.
Honestly, we're all like that.
Yeah,
like all of us are like that. Like yeah, if you get crazy with it, it's like all right, the next day we're still friends.
Like, yeah, it's like, all right, fuck you today, but tomorrow, like, you know, we're good. I'll just brush off my shoulders. Like, even this kid that I'm talking about now, I've reached out to him since, tried to check in and see how he's doing. No response, right?
No response.
So, like, whatever. Like, but you know, that's the stuff. Like, we take shots. We don't really care. But yeah, this one in particular, it was just like, at least for me personally in my past, again, never really had that much beef or problems with anyone. I feel like I've always been relatively likable. I haven't necessarily gone out of my way to try to make myself be perceived better by other people. Conversation would flow, and I just have nothing bad to say about anyone. That's not who I am. So I like even saying these things I don't like talking about, but I think it's a really important thing is picking your roommates, picking your friends wisely, especially picking your business partner, having fucking contracts established. Like, that's an important thing in probably any business. Like, I didn't have a contract with this kid. If I had a contract with him, I would have been able to sue his ass. Granted, his mother was one of the best what do you call it, attorneys in all of like Florida at the time, and so I'm not even gonna waste my time. And this is someone who grew up with daddy and mommy's money and giant mansion.
Yeah, I know. Lesson contracts are important, definitely important.
Yeah,
long, just make them long.
Like, so many things I learned from that. One of them, contract. Right?
Make them long.
Read them. Like, pay a cheap lawyer $500 to go through them. Don't try to write them in your mom's basement with like random words that don't make sense, because then a lot of times that'll be voided. Like, have a contract with any party you get into business, whether it's like your best friend or whether it's like your significant other. Just, it sounds overly excessive, but you do have to get to that point, because like no relationship is guaranteed. Everyone, for the most part, at some point or another, they're going to have to look out for themselves if they think that for some reason you might be holding them back, or if they think they can take advantage of you and get away with it, like in this situation, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So I don't let that shit fly. So this kid was getting kicked out regardless of whether he left before I could confront him or not, which is actually what he did. I ended up connecting him with people that were pretty big in the industry, that he was going to be able to open up like so many good relationships with and make so much money from. And just by that kid fucking me over, he probably missed out on $1 million, $2 million, $3 million a year in profit conservatively if he just genuinely found any agent and said, let me partner with you and get a commission off the people I referred.
He could have found any agent in China to fulfill his stuff. I'm curious, do you even know why he was doing this? Like what was like the reasoning? Because those guys make money. They mark up all the products.
Yeah.
Like, you have it's cheaper than AliExpress. They mark it up. They're making money. You're pumping volume. Like, why? I don't understand.
I think he figured out that if he said, oh, I missed a payment for a week. Holy shit, I got a wire
for a week.
He said, I missed sending a payment to a supplier. So there was a time where he was actually bulk ordering to his suppliers, and he sent them money. They fulfilled the orders, and the payment ended up bouncing, and he kept it. He never sent it to him. So he was probably like, what if I could do this with other people? What if I could like send a screenshot that I sent the payment to a supplier, which is what he was doing for me. He was showing conversations. He was saying, oh, listen to this supplier I'm having a conversation with. And like, meanwhile, it's regarding products for like one of his brands, or like for something totally unrelated to what I'm doing with him. So a lot of business catfishery going on, but
catfishery.
But yeah, anyways, he figured out that, hey, this is a hell of a lot easier finding stupid people like me that don't have contracts established and basically scamming them out of tens of thousands of dollars until they figure it out.
Well, there's a failure right there.
And then hopping and moving and pivoting. But that being said, because of that, the amount of vetting that I do for agents, suppliers, like sourcing agents, where I get packaging, whatever it might have been, whatever it might be now, and in the past few years, I knew that I had to find someone who's incredibly reliable, and I had to vet them in so many different ways, to the point where when I sold $1.7 million in a single month worth of product, I had very, very little issues working with that one manufacturer that I still work with to this day, because of how many people I went through and had to vet. And if I didn't do that, who knows? I could have worked with someone like him who, not like you, like him who like, let's say they fulfilled 20 or 30% of the orders and said, we're getting $50,000, $100,000 wires from these guys. What if we just stopped fulfilling for 2-3 days? They would have cashed out $250,000 on us, and they could have ran, and they're in China. So like, it's not like we have contracts in between each other internationally, because what the hell are we going to do? We're not going to fly out over there, but over $250,000 we might. But like, they could have easily done that.
Where do you even fly to?
Shenzhen.
Yeah,
they could have easily screwed us over. And in hindsight, it's actually crazy that they didn't. But I went through so much vetting because of that, like, little PTSD that I had from that now I pick good suppliers, and they serve me. They help me in so many different ways. Like even when there were problems, they ended up sending like $50,000 worth of inventory, because we had maybe like 5% of orders that were damaged or had problems or were coming in late. They just sent us a free $50,000 worth of inventory. They made so much money off of us, and we had such a good relationship. They didn't even care. They were just like, hey, here's $50,000 worth of inventory.
Damn.
You know, and that ended up sitting in a warehouse for a couple of months. We ended up not unloading it because we had out-of-count bans and all these problems.
Yeah, the whole nine.
But just like a story like that, you know, it goes beyond business. That also kind of dipped into personal. But again, the takeaway from that is surround yourself with people who you either want to be with or who are on the same mission as you. Because if you surround yourself with 5 fucking bums, you're gonna be a bum.
You're gonna be a bum.
If you surround yourself with 5 scammers, you're probably gonna end up being a scammer. 5 drug dealers, you're gonna end up probably pushing pills, right? So
if you have 5 people that are rich as shit and successful as shit, you're gonna become successful as shit. It's like it's very simple, you know.
So and it's crazy, and that's kind of, I guess that's held with me both personally and in business. But yeah, so many different things. Even like back in when I was doing either D1 track or even back to like varsity athletics in high school, like. A lot of the sports that I got into, my like freshman year, I guess I wasn't the best at. I mean, I wasn't bad at them. I was still probably the top 5%, but like I wasn't the best at some sports, and I was like, I always looked at it as an opportunity to grow. So basketball was one of the sports that like I was always the shortest. I was very quick. I was pretty good at defending, but I always had to prove myself there because I just sucked at shooting, and it was such a hard thing. Like I just sucked at finishing, but it was a hard like pill to swallow because I was pretty good at every sport. I was a really good athlete. Like people knew me as like maybe most athletic in the school, whatever it might have been. And that was one thing that I like hated, right? So missing shots in the game, right? I'm next morning I'm going to the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like literally my public gym where there's like wood flooring, and I'm working on like handles. Like I'm doing dribbling drills. I'm staying after practice. I'm putting up shots.
This makes you laugh so much because I lived through this shit.
He knows
so
it too.
Like
it's
so funny. Oh my god.
So
we went to different high schools, so like whatever.
We had it was like us two, and we had another friend of ours. We had a trio going on.
Actually, shout out to our indoor soccer team way back in the day. We had a squad of 4 of us. Me, Kyle, Andy, and Jack. Fucking killers back in the day. Yeah, we did play a lot of sports.
What I was gonna say is that like. With Andy particularly, we kind of had like the trio where it was all we were all like, all right, like who's the best at what sport?
And Andy was nice at baseball, and then like me and you just switched between like soccer,
we were like basketball, soccer, like whatever. Yeah. And so we were always fighting over soccer because I was like, I'll give him the basketball because he's taller than us. Like he would always have like extra reach, like you know whatever. His shots were going in better than us, whatever it might have been. He ended up playing on like a high school team that was way better than all of our high school teams. I won't get into too much detail, but we were always kind of fighting over that. I was like, nah, I got you a little bit on soccer, and like you can have your basketball, he can have his baseball.
Oh no, it was pretty nice at soccer, but
we both probably could have went D1 if that's where where our priorities fell. Yeah, but
that's funny.
But yeah, I mean, it's like little things like that where if there was something that I wasn't good at, I was always trying to figure out how can I better myself or get better at that thing, and that only happened because of the those games where you lose by fucking 3 points. So that's a failure. That's a lesson. That's something that like the next game you're going to show up, you're going to look back on that game footage, and you're never going to forget that one penalty kick on a team that your team hasn't scored on in a decade, and you hit the fucking crossbar. You never forget. You're never going to forget that. But you're going to look at that moment and be like I have to take advantage of the time that I'm still on this planet, and the records that I still have yet to break, and the things that I've yet to be able to accomplish, and just look back and be like, because of that moment, I'm never going to let another opportunity slip through my fingers.
100%. You know? And also doing it with like people, like you said, that are good for you, right? Like we were always doing it together, like myself, Kyle, a few other buddies that we played sports with. Like honestly, some of these guys we still do business with to this day. So it's like it's the same group of guys. They're all good guys. Like come from good families, like have good ethics, morals, like have like ambitions, like every day working hard. You know what I mean? Like. There's none of us that just sit home and are bums all day. Like we're all working. Like, and the thing is, like, as we all level up, the other one levels up too. Because like one of us sees us doing something, like, oh shoot, how the hell did you do that? And then he shares it with me. Boom, I level him up and just beat what he just did. And then boom, he looks at me like, whoa, how'd you do that? And then next thing you know, he's leveling me up. Yeah. So it's like going back and forth, leveling up, and having like 3, 4, 5 guys that you can just, and girls, obviously girls around there too. Honestly, girls are great. We have to hire some more females in our businesses because like they help in very different ways that like you can't even imagine. Obviously, a lot of guys are gonna be watching this, but like females, once you add them into a business, it's a game changer in so many ways. Like organization wise, like just communicating as a company.
Yeah, even like client facing.
Sorry, that went on a tangent. That's huge.
Client success managers and stuff like
because like I do a lot with clients and stuff because like we have all the brands we work with and stuff like that. Honestly, sometimes I wish I just had a female version of me to talk to these clients because like it just comes out nicer. Like they're Like
they get less shit.
Yeah, exactly. Like they get less shit. Like they're like a lot more, like a lot of women are like more genuine than men. Like this, like that just happens. You know what I mean? Like they have like more passion for a lot of stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Also, it's like you don't want to be rude to a woman. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
you don't want to be a dick.
It's funny though, because like a man to a man, they can be rude. A woman to a woman could be very, very rude.
Yeah.
But when you like have a woman to a man, like usually they're both nicer to each other. You know, because it's like there's more respect in there. So like add a woman to definitely your team. They game changers. But like back to that, it's all about like having your circle, right? Having each other level up. When you do fail, like everyone freaking fails. Like help the guy just move up. Look, you failed, boom, I failed too, you failed too. Let's keep going up, right? Because like I said, like I can already see by the time we're like 28, 30, it's like we like every like month we're just leveling each other up. Because like I just like me and my partner, like Joe, you probably will have him on here. We just made a big move, and I know he's watching us make the same big move, and I can already see in like 6 months he's gonna do the same fucking shit.
Yeah, I'm waiting to learn and see like where they fuck up. So this is exactly what we're talking about. Is like learning from other people's mistakes, learning from yours. They're going to go with some lawyers. They're going to sign some contracts. They're going to get their first tenants. Some of them are going to miss payments. They're going to need some, renovations, whatever it might be. They're going to have to go through like some law within the city that they didn't know about that's going to cost them extra money. So they go through that, and I'm going to jump in and be like, oh, like let me learn from that. And the next time I go into the similar type of business, I'm gonna know the things to look out for. I'm gonna be able to bring people that he might have brought on when looking at these properties that might have saved them 30, 40 grand.
We're talking about real estate, but stuff like that. Like we just made a big jump looking into real estate, and like I know he's like, okay, like take notes, like how does this work? What does the process look like?
Like pull you into the more fun things, and then there's the other side that would pull you into the more productive things, right? So there was a group of guys that were like, oh, let's go play basketball. Let's go let's go study. Let's go do things that might suck as a middle schooler or a high schooler, but that ultimately are going to put you in a better position to like set you up long-term, future, whatever it might have been. Then there's the other group of people that are pulling you in. Let's go to these parties. Let's go smoke some weed. Let's go in this guy's basement and make some rapping beats. Nothing against like a lot of that stuff, because it just depends on the context, right? So if you're in middle school, no reason you should be smoking weed. Even if you're in high school, there's very few.
I'm not big on that, but yeah.
There's very few positives that you're going to get out of that, unless there's a genuinely good reason. Let's say you're pursuing an art career and it sparks your creativity, whatever excuses you come up with. Personally, that's not our thing. We have nothing against people that do it, right? But at the end of the day, it's probably going to be a negative vehicle as opposed to a positive vehicle. It's going to have you, maybe waking up, being groggy, eating the foods that you don't want to eat, and you wonder why you're not.
It's the same thing with drinking too. Like, like we go out, we party sometimes, but like, I know people
in moderation.
I know people who party like literally they're in the city like Tuesday to like Sunday, and like nonstop just boozing. It's the same exact thing. Like you're groggy, you don't want to do anything, you're tired, your stomach hurts, you don't even want to eat, you have a headache. Like, how do you function?
To me, like we're both kind of a similar way in the sense that like we don't want to go out like every weekend. It'll be like, oh, we'll go out like one weekend in the month, or we'll go out like maybe 2 weekends in the month, and even sometimes we'll go out and like we won't even drink. Like we'll go out, we'll eat, we'll go to a sports game, something like that. Just because for me personally, when I like if I'm going out a night drinking with these guys in the city, it's like, or like Hoboken, whatever it might be, which is like a popular city by us in New Jersey. We'll like, it's first of all you have to clear your entire calendar for like the second half of that day. Just to go out,
and then the next day too,
and then you wake up the next day feeling like shit. Yep. And at least the first 6-8 hours of the day, you're probably not really getting anything done. You're kind of easing your way into it, and then for like and then for the rest of the day, it's like since your morning was fucked, the rest of the day also gets thrown off and out of balance, and it could trickle into like in reality you're like, oh, I'm going out from 8 to like 1 a.m. Like what's so bad about that? But a lot of times you lose a lot of the previous day, and then you lose a lot, if not all of the next day. So it's like, and that's kind of how we think. It's like, what's the opportunity cost of doing some of these things that if we stayed in different friend groups throughout high school and we grew up in different ways or we took different paths, we might be in the position to where like we're not where we are now. We don't have the upside potential that we do right now. Like it's crazy to think about the different paths that you can take, and you just have to just do the things that it's not like you shouldn't have fun, but do things in moderation and focus on the things that you probably don't want to do, but that are likely going to lead to growth, as opposed to the things that you really want to do now, but are probably going to put you in a really shitty place in 5
Yeah, because like, look, like we said, like probably by the time we're 30, like I don't even have to do any podcasts. I don't have to do any stuff like that. Like, you know what I mean? So like, you get to a point where like you busted your butt for like 6, 7, 8, 9 years. You hit 30, and you're just like, if you want to party, you can party. At that point, you can rent a yacht for 2 weeks in Europe. Like at 21, most guys can't do that. Even the guys who are ripping numbers and like they are doing that, they probably even shouldn't be doing that. They're just doing that to flex on Instagram. You know what I mean? So it's like, put the time in, make the money, and then you can just like, you can enjoy it. You know what I mean? Like, I want to enjoy when I'm like 20 or whatever. Sure, that's fine. Like, enjoy it once a month. Enjoy it over the summer. But like, grind. Like, you have to grind because then like, by the time you hit 30, stuff changes. You're married, you have kids, if you want to have kids, all that type of stuff. Like, all these things happen, right? Like, you can't be working, like, we're recording this podcast like 8 o'clock at night right now. I've been working all day, so is he. But you can't do this when you're married and kids, right? Like, you have to do this now, grind now, and then you enjoy it later. So, I don't know. That's my
you definitely have to find the balance. Like, I just went to Europe for 2 months, and most
Me too,
people,
actually. We both did.
And most people look at that and they're like, oh, that's the coolest thing ever, but like, we're still working while we're there. We're not sitting on our asses doing nothing. We're not working 12 hours a day like we're working right now. But
you're still on your phone.
We're still getting 3-4 hours of work a day, maybe 5 sometimes, and like we're still getting shit done and moving things forward. And that's what allows us to be able to fucking travel to Europe. Like, most people that go, it's like they're of the mentality of, oh, I just saved up $3,000. I can go do my Florida trip. I can go do my Europe trip for like a week or two, and it's like, but that's going to run out. Like, we're thinking of the mentality of like, oh, like we're going to take a break for all our hard work and we're going to turn it down. We're not going to just turn it off. Like, we can never turn it off. Our minds are racing 24/7. It's like, we'll turn it down a little bit, but that's what allows us to be there. And not like, while we're there, we're making more than enough money to cover it, like, while we're there. It's not like we have a finite amount of money, we got to go, and it runs out.
I'm always thinking, especially like when I take like trips like that to like, say, Greece or Europe or whatever, like if I spend like, say, $10,000, in my head, I'm thinking, okay, where am I getting?
Can I make this back this week?
Well, I'm making this $10K back. Like, how am I making this $15 back? You know what I mean? Like, always thinking that. It's not like, oh, I saved up $5K and I just ripped it on a vacation. Like, don't think of it like that. Be like, okay, I have this money, set it away, but while I'm there, like, did I just make this money back? And like, if you don't have that mentality, you're just blowing like left and right. You know, it's like you can't be doing that.
Yeah, and we're talking a lot about money, just because we're obviously New Money Talks.
Well, it's New Money Talks.
But like at the end of the day, it's your financial life, your professional life, it also dips into like your personal life too. So you also have to have balance there. Like, and I think that's another thing that a lot of people neglect. There's a lot of entrepreneurs that are worth $50, $100 million, and they're lonely as shit. They're out of shape.
Oh, for sure.
They have autoimmune diseases because they ate shit food all the way up until they were X years old.
That brings up, there's another podcast called Money Buys Happiness. It's like Nelk I think it's like signed by Nelk recently, and like they talk about that. It's like obviously like money's great, like you do these awesome things, but like like he said, there's billionaires who are like depressed. So like it's not all about money. A lot of it is. That's why we're New Money Talks. But at the same time, like you always have you gotta be happy too. You gotta do stuff that kind of make you happy. And also make money at the same fucking time. So it's just part of the game. But
I think we covered a lot of ground here.
Oh, this was a good one. Like I actually enjoyed this one. The next one, we actually have someone scheduled. It's on the calendar. He's coming in. He's hot. He has a YouTube channel too, so we'll be shouting all that stuff out too.
Yeah, it'll be cool. You'll be getting some different perspectives from guys that are like us, but it'll be a little bit more sit-down interview style. So we'll get to pick his brain a little bit. Yeah,
we'll be talking a lot less. He'll be talking a lot more. I want to be like, hey, if you have any questions, put in the comments. But like, no one's commenting, so like, it is what it is.
We'll answer the good questions. We'll ask the good questions for you, and we'll ask you for some feedback once we get a little bit of traction on these.
Exactly.
Videos.
But like, I think that's it. We'll wrap it up. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share, the whole nine.
Send it to a friend who's sitting on their ass doing nothing.
We're going to keep saying it again. Send it to the friend that's just sitting on his butt like eating potato chips.
We just talked about it, right? Like, you're the average of the 5 guys that you hang around. If you're not helping elevate your friends to get to a position where they're at your level or they're even beyond your level, then I don't know what you're doing. Like, if you have friends that you just love that are awesome, that like we have a couple of friends like that in our friend group. We might not be on the exact same mission, but we love them and we're always pushing them up, bringing them up. And then we have those other friends that are just on that other level that we want to meet with just as many times to help us get a little bit more experience, knowledge in the business world, connections, whatever it might be. So be a good friend and send this to someone who needs to see it.
Sounds good. Well, this was fun.
Yeah, that concludes episode number 2, official second episode.
Yeah.
Technically, it's the third one we recorded, but that concludes the second episode of New Money Talks, and we'll see you in the next one.
See you on the tripod.